We're about to hit the road in a few. Both the wife and the daughters, you know, on a little getaway for a couple of days. Baby girl is about to go back to her mom. And it's summertime, and that's what we do, right? We do things together, and we have a good time. Um, I just like brothers, sisters. When you have a child outside of your relationship with a woman, men, women, we got to be mindful as to how we interact so that we don't bring emotional distress to that child. We have to be very careful in our dealings and how we communicate so that that child won't feel like they're being pulled in two different directions. Oftentimes, in the field that I work in, I see children dealing with the grief of divorce, of parents separating, and it's causing them anxiety and depression and all these other things because of how the parents are handling their decision to no longer be a couple. So, as a father and as a mental health professional, I oftentimes try to assure my child that though me and her mother aren't together, we both love her, we both care for her, and we both want her best. Um, uh, we both have her best interests in mind. I know sometimes it can be frustrating, especially if you're married and you have a child outside of your marriage, with adultery, as I did. It could cause the child to feel like you might love the other children more than you love them. So sometimes parents, what we do is we overcompensate. But we got to be careful with that as well because there has to be boundaries. Though we can love them, though we can cherish them, though we can show them how much they mean to us in these situations, we still have to make sure that the appropriate boundaries are set so that discipline on both sides are met equally. It shouldn't be, oh, I could do this at daddy house, I can't do this at mommy house. I could do this at mommy house, I can't do this at daddy house. There should be some sort of communication there so that our children are healthy and whole. And they don't feel like, oh, I want to be disobedient over here because I could be disobedient over there, and so forth and so on. It should never be that way. And there should always be some sort of line of communication between the adults. However, I understand that sometimes that can't take place due to the way that the relationship flew, right? Or was, that the relationship, evolved. Sometimes, there's bitterness, sometimes there's hurt, sometimes there's pain, sometimes there's, places where you just feel like you can't recover. But when there's a child involved, you have to find a way to press through those things and not be selfish and think, and just thinking about yourself, but think about that baby, think about that child, think about not wanting that child to have to feel the same pain and discomforts and things that you felt growing up because your parents weren't together. Think about the times that you missed with your father or your mother because one of the parents wanted to be bitter and angry and not allow the child to visit and not allow the child to be involved in certain things. The family wants to take a trip outside of the country, but one of the parents won't allow the child to get the passport because they don't want, they feel like you're doing something that they might want to do first or something like that. It's weird, but you see this all the time. And it's frustrating, and you see this from both sexes, male and female, and it makes me nauseous because it's like, come on, why are you being selfish when it comes to this child? People, be mindful who you lay with. Be mindful of who you lay with, because if you're not, then you producing a seed, and now that seed is not growing properly and not being nourished properly, and then they become a dysfunctional seed, and you're wondering why. When a child hears a parent arguing and fussing and fighting and calling the other one names and doing this and doing that, that's developing a dysfunctional seed. Children should never have to endure the stuff that parents, that adults are going through. They should always believe that see that both parents are well when it comes to them. You don't go around bashing the mother of your children. You don't go around bashing the father of your children. I'm not saying hide anything from your child. I would never hide anything from my child. My daughter knows everything that went down, everything on my part anyway. It's not my story to tell her mother's situation. Her mother could tell her what she want to tell her, how she want to tell her, and in the way she want to tell her. However, I would never bash her. I tell her what I did wrong, how I responded to situations, and how I may have could have responded to those situations differently, because she's old enough to understand that now. When she was a child, no, I didn't have those conversations with her because she was too young. Now that she's a preteen and going into teenage years, it's like, yeah, now I open up and I tell her a little bit more as her young mind can, process, because she asks the questions. How did I get here? How did you and mommy meet? How could you and mommy, have me if I got all these older brothers and sisters? So we sit down and we talk honestly. I'm not one that hides my faults, my sins, the things that I've done. We overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the words of our testimony. So if I can help my daughter, grow to be better than me and better than her mother, I definitely will do that. But I'm not going to sit here and lie to her to try to save someone else's, feelings. I know what I did. Her mother know what we did, and it's up to her to have that honest conversation about her part, and it's up to me to have that honest conversation about my part. And that's how relationships are to be built. People should not be running around here lying and trying to put fault on one person. Everybody needs to be accountable for the parts that they play, and not just in romantic relationships, but in all relationships. Because we have people out here in different types of relationships that cannot be accountable for what they've done. They blame everybody else for their faults. They blame everybody else for their situations. They never take responsibility for what they've done to cause people to respond to them in the way that they respond to them. And the person that's responding, people always believe that that person is the one that's supposed to go, oh, you need to let that go, oh, you need to make that better. Excuse me? No, you don't understand what was done to me and how I felt when it was done to me. So it's going to take me the time that it needs to take me so that I can be able to do what I need to do or recover from. And just because you forgive somebody does not mean that you have to put yourself back in their space. I don't understand where that came from. Oh, you got to forgive. Okay, I forgave. So that doesn't mean that I'm going to come to the party next week. That doesn't mean that we're going to sit across the table and break bread. That doesn't mean that. It just means that I'm not holding any malice in my heart towards that person, and I pray the best for them. People gotta stop thinking that just because people have a relationship, whether it be romantic, whether it be family, whether it be friend, whether it be professional, whatever it is, if somebody wrongs you, you're supposed to just say, okay, they wronged me, I forgive them. Now there's all hugs, it's flowers, it's kisses, and we're gonna go skipping through the tulips. That's not true. That's not how this thing works. Everyone has a time and a space that they need to process things so that they can heal from things, so that they can recover from things mentally, spiritually, emotionally. So stop trying to force people into relationships because you or or you want them to say, okay, let's make it like it was. No, that's not how it works. And that's okay. We're okay with that. People should be okay with that. And when, especially when, it's some sort of break between that relationship where someone either almost lost their life, someone was hospitalized mentally, physically, emotionally, someone was abused mentally, physically, emotionally. Like, you got to give people space to heal, and that's a process. It doesn't happen overnight all the time. God can do what he want to do, and he can make it as such, but sometimes you just got to walk through that process, and we have to learn how to heal in that process. Right? I love my family. I love my mother. I love my sisters. I love my brothers. I love my family. Just want to make sure I ain't got no boogie up in there. Seem like I do, but I love them. I love my children. I love my wife. I love my daughter's mother. Right? Especially, she gave me something that, that's precious. A child, a human life that she carried in her body, right? Unselfishly, because she didn't have to. And in that, we produced a child, a healthy child, a beautiful soul. So why wouldn't I love her? Could we ever be together? Of course not. We're not good together in that aspect of being together in a relationship. I'm a married man, right? We did what we did. We produced a child, and we have to live with our decisions. We have to live with those decisions. And I pray for her every day, and I pray for the best for her. That she receives and finds the love that I have in my life, because everyone deserves that. I don't think anyone should ever have to feel as though they can't receive that love, that affection that they yearn for. I wasn't able to give her that, and I understand that. Why wasn't I able to give her that? Because in that process in time where we were, I was I was too insecure. I was. I didn't know how to love properly. Though I was married, for 19 years, when we got together, I didn't know how to love my wife properly. And I darn sure didn't know how to love her properly. Because if I would have known how to love my wife properly, me and her wouldn't have ever been in the situation that we were in. But we were there. Dare I say it was God ordained? Sometimes God can use our mess ups so that he can get the glory out of it. And maybe that's what it was. I don't know. Maybe I fell into temptation of the flesh, of the enemy, and God is using that temptation. God is using that, situation to get the glory out of it. What the devil meant for bad, God is making it for his good, because now that I have a degree in marriage and family therapy, a master's, and I have a certificate in marital and premarital counseling. I can tell my story, my testimony, and I could use therapeutic approaches to help someone else that may be going through or feeling the things that I'm feeling in their marriage. Because sometimes in our marriages, after so many years, we can start feeling unfulfilled, and we don't know how to communicate one with another. Then we go out there and do foolish things, and then we cause hurt and harm to other people unknowingly and sometimes knowingly. And then we have to try to fix these things and mend these fences. But if we could go seek the help that we need from the professionals, then maybe we won't have to find ourselves here. And maybe we don't have to have children living outside of the home, causing them distress and pain. I love my daughter. She's the last of the Mohicans. She's the baby. And I wish that she could be with me all the time. I do. But I understand how this thing works. And I would never put her or her mother through the stress of and the nonsense that some people put their children through with custody battles and this and that and that and this. My baby is going to be old enough to decide what she wants to do with her life. And when she's ready to decide and make those decisions with no force from me and prayerfully no force from her mother, then we'll make the decision. We'll make the decision. But people, we got to make sure that we, even when we are not, and when our children are not living in the home with us, we got to stop saying, "Oh, fellas, when your children come to see you and visit you and spend time with you," we got to stop saying, "I'm about to take you home." No, I'm about to take you back to your mother's house because your home is their home too. They have two homes, not just one. And women, stop trying to say, "Bring my child home." What do you mean? No, bring them to me, or let's meet up so we could do a drop off or whatever, because they have two homes now. They have two homes. It's not just your home. No, they have two homes, especially if they have an active father. So women, we be careful, be mindful of that. If your child has an active father, a father who loves her or him, we got to make sure that we're using the right terminologies so that they don't feel as if there's some sort of afterthought. I let my baby know every day, every night, that she's not an afterthought. I think of her every day. Fellas, we as fathers, we have to make sure we let our children know when we're not in the home with them that we think of them every day and that we love them, our sons and our daughters. We got to let our sons know because we want them to be raised as men of valor, men that love God, men that love community, men that protects, men that provides. We have to build up, raise up strong men so that we can begin to combat the evilness that's going on in our communities. And we have to begin to also allow our children, let our daughters know, let our daughters know how much we love them so that they're not going and growing up to seek men to validate them because their fathers didn't validate them when they were younger. I refuse to allow my daughter to be out here seeking these dudes that all they want to do is take advantage of her because her dad didn't love her the way that he should have loved her. You better send them text messages every day, send them videos, FaceTime them, talk to them. And if the mother is not allowing it to happen, buy him a phone, buy him an iPad. We got too much technology that we can use so that we can assure that our children are seeing us, hearing from us, and that knowing that we love them. And if the mother won't allow them to use their devices, then you have to take that next step and do what it is that you got to do. But don't do it in malice. Don't do it in anger. Do it so that you can have the relationship that you yearn for with your child, and ask your child what they want. We have to begin to ask our children, what do you want? How do you want this thing to go? Not try to force it on them because we think we could lord over them. Ask them. Ask them, what do you want? Do you want daddy to call you every day? Do you want a text message from me? Do you want to see me? Do you want to spend time with me? What do you want me to do? And if you get that conversation, yes, dad, I want to do this, but my mom won't let me. Okay, if your mom won't let you, the only thing that I could do now, baby, is I have to go to court and I have to fight for these rights. Will you be okay with that? Because I don't ever want to do anything that's going to hurt or harm you. You have to have those honest conversations, especially if you're sending money. If you're a deadbeat and you're not helping out and you're not sending no money, I don't know what to tell you. Get yourself together, get a job, get a house, take care of your child, take care of your responsibilities. That goes for both parents because there's deadbeat mothers and deadbeat fathers out here. I don't know why people think it's just fathers that's absent. No, mothers are absent too. And if you're not doing what you need to do as a mother or a father in this child's life, I pray that you get yourself together so that we can stop this nonsense that's going on in our community. I'm talking, listen, I know it goes on in every community. I'm not saying that it doesn't go on in every community, but right now I'm speaking to the African American Black community. We have to make sure that we are doing what we need to do as parents so that we can raise children that are productive members of society, that are politicians, that are lawyers and doctors and engineers. We gotta stop thinking that we only raise children to be entertainers or athletes. No, things aren't changing in our community because we don't have the right people in the right spaces because we're not raising our children to take those places. So we got to start raising our children to take those places. And the reason why is because we have all of these broken relationships. We're so busy fighting each other over nonsense things, nuanced things, that our children are suffering and aren't being raised properly because our relationships one with another sucks. We have to repair the relationships that we have in our community in order to build a successful community, in order to build people up. When are we going to do that? Let's stop worrying about all the ratchet stuff on TV. Who's dating who did this, who did that, and let's really start looking at, yo, how can we build a a generation that's going to lead the next generation and generations to come into a place of prosperity, into a place flowing with milk and honey. We got to start really raising our children up to that part, right? And you train up a child in the way that they should go. And when they are older, they will not depart from it, right? We have to train up our children to be leaders, not followers, to be, way makers, policy setters, right? They already trend setters, but what type of trends are they setting? Are we training them to be, loyal? Are we training them to be kind? Are we training them to be gentle? Or are we training them up to be like us? How we used to be whores, whoremongers, drug dealers, gun carriers, gun toters, right? Are we doing that? We complain about when we with the relationship with our children. We talk about the way that the music is, the way that they dress, this, that, the third. But when I really go back in my memory banks, listen to the music that we grew up to. NWA wasn't that. We it really wasn't, right? We got so much stuff that we need to deal with. And yes, rap music. They when they start talking about shoot 'em up, who was they talking about killing? Who's they talking about taking from? Who's they talking about robbing? Who's they talking about selling the drugs to? Right? It was more of a story, but come on. Now they just ratchet and then they just use they have no education, so they don't know how to use, symbolisms, right? They don't know how to use metaphors. They don't know how to use figurative language in their songs. So they just blunt and open with it. But if we go back and we weave through the lyrics of the songs that we used to listen to, because we understood English, we understood figurative language, we understood similes and metaphors and different things like that. We understood allegory. We understand that stuff. So we know what they were saying, but they were saying it in more of a classier way. But these kids don't have nobody to lead them. How can they have somebody to lead them when their mom dropped out in fifth grade and their dad never went to school, period? How? Grandmom's uneducated, mom's uneducated, and dad's uneducated. What do they have? Mom can't have a civil conversation because all she want to do is yell, scream, curse. Dad can't have a civil conversation because somebody say something to him. All he want to do is start busting his gun. How? Parents are high all the time off lean, which we call syrup back in the day, water, whatever we called it, pills, perks, Xannies, whatever the pill is of the day, marijuana that's grown to make you addicted because the more heat you put on a cannabis tree, the more THC it produces. So if you have a higher level of THC, you have a higher chance of becoming addicted to the marijuana. This is the society that we created, my generation, Gen X, because we didn't stand up, because we were taught to listen to our parents, be obedient to our parents. Even if our parents were wrong, we were taught that we need to follow the rules. We need to do this, we need to do that. And then we have a generation now that rebels. The millennials, the Zers, and the alphas are rebelling. The Bible said they're going to be wiser but weaker, and that they are. They're so wise with this technology. They have a lot of thought processing, but they're weak when it comes to emotional stability. They don't know how to control or regulate their emotions so that they can handle business the way that business needs to be handled. We got to think about the stuff that we've done and the relationships that we built throughout the years and how it's affecting our children today. We can't put all the blame on the children. How are we training them? How are we raising them? What are we giving them other than ratchet TV, ratchet music, bad food, thinking it's okay to party? You out here partying with your daughter, mothers, wearing the same clothes, same outfits they're wearing, smoking the same weed that they smoking, chasing the same men that they chasing. And we think that's okay. Fathers, same, teaching his son to be disrespectful to women, his own black mother, his own black grandmother, his own black sister. How is that? What? How's that okay? And then we got boys and girls out here carrying guns, killing people that look like them at an all-time high. And we think that that's okay because they kill other people in other communities. What does that have to do with you? Relationships. Relationships. How are we building relationships? What are we doing to build healthy relationships? In the family, out of the family, in the community, out of the community, at the job, out of the job. What are we doing? My prayer is that we find a way to learn to respect and to love ourselves again. My prayer is that we become my brother's keeper and my sister's protector. That's my prayer. Fathers, again, love your babies. Fight for your babies. Do what you need to do. I'm not saying violently, I'm not saying aggressively, but learn to speak to one another with love and thanksgiving. I love you all with the love of God. There's nothing you can do about it. We can do all things through Christ that gives us strength. And never forget, I am my brother's keeper, and I'm also my sister's protector. And so are